Record Store Nation. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Those people that say, what is it? The stupid, for those of you who sell, forget that. Just happy holidays to everybody, whatever. So, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, whatever it is that you celebrate, we want you to have fun. This is the final episode of the Record Store this year, so happy holidays to all. I am getting ready for, well, let's see, my birthday is Christmas Eve, and of course New Year's Eve, which I used to, have problems with New Year's Eve because I consider it amateur night, and of course, there's all the ridiculous drinking and drunk driving and all the crap that goes on New Year's Eve. But actually, a good friend of mine has a band that almost always plays on New Year's Eve, and I almost always try to go see them on New Year's Eve. So I've actually become somebody who does actually go out on New Year's Eve. And little known fact, those who know me closely know this, I am obsessed with the New Year's Eve countdown shows. Like the old Dick Clark stuff that is now Ryan Seacrest and the other networks that do stuff too. This is so bizarre, and you guys are going to really laugh. This is an inside peek, inside baseball here, of something cheesy and weird that I do, is I actually DVR the countdown shows. And I don't care about spoilers, because I know that ball is going to drop in Times Square. I know what's going to happen. So, but it's just I don't know. There's something really funny and exciting and weird about seeing the drunks in New York City. And wondering where do they pee when they're there all day? They're there 12 straight hours trying to save their spot for the ball to drop in New York, in Times Square. So you got to wonder, are those stores actually allowing them to come in and go to the bathroom? So anyway, or do they just piss themselves pretty much? So anyway, I am weirdly obsessed with New Year's Eve. So, but this is the Record Store, yet another special Christmas edition. Before we get any further, of course, I have to thank the house band for our intro music. It is the Oily Stools. They are amazing. Little known fact about them, everybody assumes that their name is gross and it's, you hear about it in the Meds commercials and stuff, but actually, truly, the small trivia fact about the Oily Stools is that they were playing a dive bar in Austin, Texas, and there were stools in the bar that were slippery, and so they actually changed their name. They had another name, a normal name, which was stupid, and they changed their name to the Oily Stools. So it literally has nothing to do with poop. So anyway, thanks to the Oily Stools for welcoming us in on this episode of The Record Store. You know the deal with The Record Store. We grab a CD at random off the voluminous wall of CDs over here. I'm going to trademark that, I think, voluminous wall of CDs. And I've had a banner year. I think I have added to the collection by the multiple dozens, probably just without even counting or anything. I've probably invested in another 75 to 100 CDs this year. So, and yes, CDs, whatever. I like, physical media, whatever. But anyway, and I think I'm actually going to do a top 10 of albums from 2023 because there was so much good stuff this year. So I'm pondering that for what the January episode's going to be. So anyway, this is our special Christmas edition. Brian likes to do a Christmas album every year, so it is not quite the random pull from the album, the voluminous album wall, as it normally is, but it is from the 3 Christmas albums that I have, I pulled one randomly, and the other 2 I've already done. So the first 2 years of this gimmick, we've already done it. So this is the 3rd and final Christmas album that I have in my collection. So who knows? We might actually add to it for next year so we can continue this gimmick. So anyway, this year, the episode is revolving around a very special Christmas compilation album from back in the day. And again, like I said, this is our trip down, memory lane as far as Christmas albums go. I personally, I gotta say, spoiler alert, I am not a big fan of Christmas music. I think the problem for me is that I hear it 24/7 at work since the middle of November. So you get burned out on it. You get tired of it. There's only so much Mariah Carey and Kelly Clarkson one can take. It's just been nonstop for me in retail. We have it playing. That's part of the deal. We have to have it playing. So I just, from the middle of November until I'm counting down the days, folks, because pretty soon we'll be able to change the Sirius XM channel again at work. But I will say, I do have a favorite Christmas song of all time. Spoiler alert, it is 2,000 Miles by the Pretenders. Big fan, obviously. Pretenders are one of my top 10 bands of all time. 2,000 Miles is a beautiful song. So, and I will give honorable mention to Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, because Christmas All Over Again, I do hear that all the time at work, probably multiple times a day. But obviously, Tom Petty is the GOAT, so I'm going to say that's my second favorite Christmas song. And that one came from, actually, ironically, the sequel to the album that we're talking about today, Very Special Christmas. So I believe that, for me, Christmas songs by popular acts, it's a gimmick. They sell. Obviously, they're going to get airplay. It's a sales gimmick by the artists. They get 5 or more heavy weeks of rotation on radio stations, whether it's XM, Sirius XM, or whatever. But, it's Christmas, so we let it go. People don't call the artists on the fact that they're selling out by doing Christmas music. So I would say if they release special music songs pandering to like 4th of July or Easter, then we would call bullshit. But everybody lets it go because it's Christmas. So, these artists are racking in the dollars. Can you imagine? Mariah Carey, I bet half of her fortune has got to, and good for her, whatever, but half of her fortune has got to be based on that Christmas song, and there's a lot of artists that, God, I hear it all day, every day, at work, hearing the music on Sirius XM, the contemporary Christmas channel. So anyway, but today we are going to discuss A Very Special Christmas. Believe it or not, that album came out in 1987. Hard to believe, 36 years ago is when Very Special Christmas came out. So when it first came out, I was super excited because Stevie Nicks was on it, Pretenders were on it, U2 was on it. So bands that I love, performers, artists that I love. So I was really excited about it. So, I hadn't really thought about this album in years. I mean, granted, we hear a lot of the songs all day, every day this time of year, songs from this album. But looking back on it, I didn't remember what the benefit for this album was. I assumed in my head, for whatever reason, I assumed that it was for hunger in Africa. I assumed that it had something to do with Live Aid, and that the existence of this album was to benefit starvation in Ethiopia, just like Live Aid did. So in doing the research for this, and maybe you thought the same thing, because it's been so long, and so the album is kind of out of sight, out of mind, but it's been so long, I really forgot what this album was for. And so I thought it was for Live Aid, but the Live Aid was in 1985. This happened in 1987. So Live Aid grew from Do They Know It's Christmas? So I think that's where the confusion sets in, is because there was that ensemble that did Do They Know It's Christmas? And that was in 84. And then Live Aid was in 85. So, but this album, turns out it was a separate deal altogether, had nothing to do with it. And so A Very Special Christmas was actually a benefit for Special Olympics. So if you remembered that, congrats to you, because I did not remember that. So hence the name, A Very Special Christmas. Obviously, now that you think about it, it was for Special Olympics, so that totally makes sense. So the album was produced by Jimmy Iovine. Hard to say, it's Iovine, Jimmy Iovine. No relation. Lance Levine, Jimmy Iovine, no relation. And no relation to Zach Levine from the Bulls either, for that matter. Although his is spelled damn near exactly the same way, with the capital V and everything. Anyway, so Jimmy Iovine had worked with Stevie Nicks, worked with Springsteen, Meatloaf, Tom Petty, U2. So this guy's production had my attention right away. It had the stamp of approval for me because of just his name being attached to this project. Having worked with some of my favorite artists of all time, I'm like, okay, I'm definitely going to give this project a look. The album went quadruple platinum, sold 4 million copies. It's ranked 19th all time in Christmas album sales. It did have a follow-up. It had Very Special Christmas 2 in 1992, and we'll talk about some of the other sequels to it. In the credits for Very Special Christmas, it said the album could not have been possible without the help of Herb Alpert. And I'm like, Herb Alpert, the famous trumpet player. So I'm like, wonder what that connection is. So I did some research there. Jimmy Iovine, who produced it, he had come up with the idea of a Christmas album. He wanted to do a Christmas album as a tribute to his father. So I'm guessing his father was majorly into Christmas or something. So he wanted to do this album as a tribute to his dad. Eovine's wife at the time worked with Special Olympics, so they kind of put their heads together, and Special Olympics, the album being a benefit for Special Olympics, came together because of her working for them. And it turns out Herb Alpert was one of the founders of A&M Records, and A&M Records is the company that put the album together. So they specifically said would not have happened without the help of Herb Alpert. So pretty cool there. Herb Alpert's still alive. I looked that one up. He's 88, so good for him. The album sales of this album, a very special Christmas, it's been over 100 million. 100 million has been raised. Over 100 million dollars has been raised for Special Olympics. So very cool. And speaking of sequels, there was Special Christmas 2, there was a 3, there was a live, there was a 5, acoustic, and 7, and then it kept going from there. So there's been probably about 10 of these altogether. Obviously not as popular as the first one. The first one is the one that really like made inroads into the airplay. And there were songs on 2 also that got a lot of airplay. So Very Special Christmas, 15 songs long. It is 51 minutes in total. At the time, it was a very novel concept, and I think it was so unique in the sense that it was a compilation of contemporary cool artists doing, for the most part, traditional Christmas songs. There's one original on the whole album. But like I said, it was novel at the time, and I would say it was probably novel the first 20 times or so that you hear these songs. But now you're like, oh my God, this album has been around for 36 years. I have heard those songs hundreds and hundreds of times, you know. And speaking for me personally, that's why I feel like I'm coming off as a Scrooge here, because I'm just not a fan of Christmas music, simply because I hear it all day every day. So enough is enough. If I didn't, I'd probably be okay with Christmas music, a little bit okay with it. So anyway, all right, let's talk about some of the songs on A Very Special Christmas. So we start out, the first song is Santa Claus is Coming to Town by the Pointer Sisters. They do have a couple of the members of the E Street Band helping out here. The vocals, very powerful with these ladies, of course. Springsteen, I would say they definitely Springsteened up this classic Christmas song. I think it was a very good use of the sisters' very distinct voices. You know, they have very distinct voices. Anita, Myrtle, Jackie, Ruth, whatever their names were. Big fan of Myrtle Pointer, by the way. Anyway, they had obviously a saxophone solo in the middle, and that was clearly Clarence Clemens. That hard to say that, but obviously it was Clarence Clemens when you're listening to it. Very energetic song, a great start to the album. I think it really gets you going, gets the blood flowing for this album, and it revs up this classic Christmas song, Santa Claus is Coming to Town. So good way to start the album, so I will give it a thumbs up. Second song is Winter Wonderland by the Eurythmics. I think that the husky, I'm listening to Annie Lennox on this, and just very husky, very sultry voice. You know, just the tones of her voice are very sultry. Kind of a haunting start to the song, but then when the music kicks in, it totally softens it. It totally, you know, like she's all somber and serious for the first few seconds of this, and then all of a sudden when the music comes in, it's very just playful and light. So I think she was very controlled on this vocal, very emotionless, and that was by design. I think in general she's got kind of that persona, is it's just kind of an emotionless presentation with her. It's in contrast to the bombast of the first song, the Pointer Sisters song. So I think putting these songs back to back was by design, just to show the different types of music that are going to be on here. But I will say, and this starts a trend on this album, the selection of this song for Annie Lennox is a perfect fit. I think that it's probably pretty clear that Jimmy Iovine, knowing the music at that time, knowing the music scene and knowing the artists that are going to be on here, there's a number of songs on here that are just absolutely perfect fits for the artists that he chose with them. She vamps it up as the song comes to a close. It's not as heavy a rotation in the Sirius playlist for Christmas as some of the other songs, but I would trade for it. I enjoy this song. I do hear it every day, but I probably only hear it maybe once a day as opposed to 7 times a day on some of these other songs. So I would trade for it because it was a good song. I like the presentation. I'm a Eurythmics fan, not over the top, but I do like Eurythmics. So I enjoyed Winter Wonderland in the second spot. All right, in the third spot, we have one of the highlights of the album, which is "Do You Hear What I Hear," the Whitney Houston song. Her majestic voice, just majestic voice. Can't say enough about what a loss it is that we don't have Whitney Houston still making music these days. Her voice, a choir gets worked into it as well. Just so sad that she's gone, because you forget what a powerful voice this lady had. So this, "Do You Hear What I Hear," obviously a Christmas classic. It's a beautiful version of the song, and again, repeating what was in the last song, a perfect selection for Whitney Houston. The song is perfectly fitting to her voice, the artist that they gave this song to. I think she takes the song, she definitely divas it up for sure, but it turns into a highlight of the album, and it turns into a highlight of when you're hearing Christmas music. And, if you're like me and it just gets to be overwhelming and too much and enough is enough already, this is a song that I could listen to all the time. This is a song that is just stunning, so powerful, and it's just tragic that Whitney Houston left us at such an early age. So, "Do You Hear What I Hear," one of the highlights at number 3. So, all right, moving on. Fourth song is "Merry Christmas, Baby." It is Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. This is the full band here. Like I said, a couple of them played on the Pointer Sisters song to open the album, but this is the full band. It's also live. I don't know, you've probably heard this song many times, but I don't know if you remember that this song is done live. The sax gives it away immediately that it's Bruce Springsteen. It's, again, the very trademark sound of Clarence Clemons, not just some other guy playing the sax, as we'll talk about in a little bit. I wonder what the live crowd thought when he brought this song out live. It's like June or July or something, and he's, singing "Merry Christmas, Baby." I wonder how the crowd was reacting. Like, all right, cool, whatever. Anyway, so the original song was from 1947. The band that originally did this song was Johnny Moore's Three Blazers. So, sounds like a wild night after Taco Bell at the Trammell household. So, anyway, Bruce totally pours it into the vocals here. He has a lot of fun with it. It ain't no Born to Run, I will say that, but I will take it. In December, I will take it. I will take "Merry Christmas, Baby" by Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. It's not just Bruce Springsteen, so let's get that correct. So, all right, at the 5th spot, we have another highlight for me. It is "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas" by the Pretenders. No secret, Chrissie Hynde is my rock chick idol. Love this lady. This song and the beauty of this song is such a stark contrast of who she is. And that's one of the things that I really liked about it, is the fact that it is so against type. Her voice is so smooth here, just such a beautiful voice. And I thought back on the time, and I talk about this story in All the Right Notes, the book, which is a perfect stocking stuffer. You can get it on Amazon.com, look for it by name. But in the book, I talk about being at a concert and Chrissie Hynde giving me the finger. So that is in stark contrast to and that's totally within character for Chrissie Hynde. Perfect. Love it. Didn't get mad at all. I appreciated the fact that it was one of my idols giving me the finger for reasons that I will detail in the book. When you order it, you'll be able to see the whole story. But anyway, so Chrissie Hynde, this rock and roll badass chick, just punk, when they came out in the 70s, she's just a punk rocker. And here she is doing this beautiful song, "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas." So it just goes to show how versatile she is, how talented she is. It's a beautiful vocal, not much music. It's actually a very stark, very sparse song, but it's almost all her. So, like I said, it just the contrast of the fact that she's this punk badass and she makes this song into a tearjerker. So I will also say this song could get some more reps on XM Sirius, please. It makes all other versions of that song irrelevant to me. And it's a beautiful rendition of that song, and it's another highlight. So "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas" by the Pretenders, officially the Pretenders, but mainly Chrissie Hynde. Another highlight of the album, halfway spot of the album. So, all right, we're at the halfway point. We're going to flip the CD over. Wait, they don't do that. They flip over vinyl. So anyway, we'll put the CD on pause. We will have some sponsors come in here and trot out their wares and pay some bills, and we will be right back with side 2 of A Very Special Christmas here on the Record Store. Stay with us, guys.